This question deals with solving for these two angle measurements when we know that we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal. We've learned a theorem in class that if we have alternate interior angles, okay, and those are created from the two parallel lines and the transversal that's cutting them, we have a theorem that says if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles should be congruent. Okay. Now if they're congruent, we know their measurements are equal. And this is the algebraic representation for that angle's measurement, and this is the algebraic representation for that angle's measurement. The theorem says those two measurements should be the same. So we're going to take the representation of the one angle, 12x minus 2, and set it equal to the representation of the other angle, which was 10x plus 10. Okay? That shows the relationship that these two alternate interior angles are congruent. Now we'll go through and solve for that value of x. I'll add 2 to both sides. That's going to give me 12x is equal to 10x plus 12. I'll then remove 10x from both sides. That leaves me with 2x is equal to 12. And now divide both sides by 2. And it leaves me with x to be 6. Okay. Now, with most questions, remember, have we asked the question being, or have we answered the question being asked? Okay. If x is equal to 6, does that provide me then with what these angle measurements are? Okay. Well, I'll take 10 and then multiply it by my x, which is 6, so I'll get 60 plus another 10, and this angle measurement should be then 70 degrees. Okay. If I come up here, I'll take 12 times 6, which gives me 72, subtract 2, and that angle measurement is 70 degrees. And now what we've learned is that those two angle measurements are equal, proving then that those two angles are congruent. Okay. Now once I've learned that that is 70 degrees, I can find the other 7 angles in these parallel lines. If I know that's 70 degrees, this angle down here is supplementary to 70 degrees. They're a linear pair, so that should be 110 degrees. Okay. Now through everything else that we've learned, we can use different relationships to find missing angles. Okay. This angle of 110 and this angle here are vertical angles, so that should be 110 as well. Okay. If that's 110 and that's 70, these two angles are going to add up to 180, and that's what we've already learned, that same side interior angles should total 180. Okay. If this is 110, this angle up here, which is an alternate interior pair, okay, with this 110, that should be 110. Okay. Alternate interior angles are congruent, much like we found these two angles to be congruent. Okay. That reinforces the idea that this angle here and this angle down here, they are corresponding angles. Remember, they're in corresponding positions. Okay, so that proves then that corresponding angles should be congruent in this picture. For the same reason that this was 110 and that was 70, we look at these two angles, they're supplementary, so if that's 110, that's 70. Okay, if that's 110, this has got to be 110 because they're vertical, which then also is backed up by the fact that these two angles are supplementary, and 110 plus 70 is 180, and we get that linear pair. Okay, and then come down here to this last angle down here. If that's 70, then the vertical angle across from it should be 70 as well, and we can back that information up with knowing that that's 70, that's 110, and they form that linear pair. Okay, so make sure that once you find x, you go back into the question and make sure that you answer the questions being asked. Did they just want x, or do they want angle measurements? In this case, we went ahead and we found all 8 angle measurements. Once you know one of them, you know all 8 of them.